Hello everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. Today is the first installment of the Fundamentals and Principles of Art challenges and prompts to inspire creativity and improve skills. So this is something I wanted to try doing this year. I've been hesitant to do it because I do have a little bit of commitment issues when it comes to time frames. You know what life is like, it's just busy. And trying to make sure I have something uploaded the first week of every month has been or will be a challenge for me. So go easy on me if it's late, but I will for sure do a prompt every month. And the idea behind this series, I guess you could call it, is I want to take our junk journaling and kind of put an art twist on it. So when you're doing your doodles with me or your watercolor, I want you to think about these fundamentals and these principles while you're creating. And I think learning and exploring these will inevitably improve your skills and your understanding of your style, because we're all going to have our own style. So what I thought is I would break it into some prompts, and then we'll cover some specific things inside our journal or on an art surface. And then you can take it and apply it to your projects in your style. And hoping that this kind of a series inspires you to want to give these things a try. Maybe see things in a different perspective. Maybe use a material you haven't used before. That's the idea behind this. So to get started on this, what I thought I would do is just create a little journal where we will explore all these topics in this journal. So I got stuff stuck to me. So I have this scrap pile of, well, it's not a scrap pile. I must have bought a stack of paper at some point, and it's been sitting in a drawer forever. So I thought I will just make a simple journal where I can explore these techniques inside this journal and then just keep it. I can even entitle it Fundamentals and Principles of Art. And what I wanted to do though is design a book where it will lay flat so I can use a full spread if I want. So all I'm doing is I'm taking these pieces and I am literally just taping them together. And I want to keep the project relatively affordable. You know, I don't want to go out and buy materials and stuff. I want to use what I've got. So I'm using this medical tape just from the dollar store, super, super cheap. And I'm sticking it to one side, chopping it off. And then I flip this over. And one day I'll clean up my studio. It was on my to-do list, but never did it. And then I am going to line it up as best I can. This book's getting kind of thick now. Line it up as best I can, close to the ridge. Press it down. Flip it over. See, I don't even care if it's lined or if it's messy, because I'm eventually going to cover this with techniques and styles anyways, and mediums, and then fold it back on itself. So that's all I'm doing. I started by gluing paper as a bind, but then I thought that might be a bit too distracting when it comes to doing one of these projects. So I wanted to keep it a little bit more simplified and subdued. So I'm just going to use this tape. And it's strong enough to bond the paper together. And it's going to be perfect for what we need. So I'm just going to continue doing this. What's nice about it is you can just make it this big and then add papers as you go, so you don't have too many or too little. But I'm going to add probably double this, and then I'm going to glue just a binding around the edge here. Just because the tape is kind of bent, right? It's exposed in the back here, so it will be sticky. So I just want to make sure I bind it all together. All right, so that's what I'll be doing, and then we will start our first prompt. And today's prompt, by the way, will be composition. Okay, so here it is. This is the little book, and all I did was seal it off with a piece of duct tape. And that's it. Now it's pretty simple, pretty basic, but it's gonna work for us. Well, work for me anyway. So composition is our first prompt for this month. So there's all kinds of compositions. So there are things like, well, let's just talk about what composition is. So composition is a way in which different elements of an artwork are combined and arranged. So how do I simplify it the easiest way? There are a few different what's the word, compositions. So here's a few basic ones. If you were to Google composition in art or something like that, you're going to get a menu that will pop up with all these different kind of styles, and they're the simplest way to break down why a composition works and why it doesn't. There's the rule of threes, which is the one we'll be using today because it's probably the easiest one in my opinion, and the most effective, I think. Golden section, where there's a cross in the right through in a couple of different planes. There's the golden spiral, which spins around, and you'd have a focal point, you'd have movement. Then there's the focal mass, where generally speaking, there's a huge part of negative space and then something that focuses and moves your eye across. There's the basic V arrangement and circle arrangement. So one thing too and I don't want to get too deep into it, I just want to give us a starting point. One thing you can also play with is not just the way they arrange, but when it says elements, arranging different elements in your artwork can also apply to texture and color. So you can use these kind of compositions and you can explore them more by using texture and color. So I have a painting here on my iPad, one of my favorite artists of all time, which is Turner. He's a British painter. Well, he was. He's long gone now. This is one of his paintings. And what I love about his work is the movement in his brush strokes. Of course, the color palette his neutralized color palette has always appealed to me. And his subdued backgrounds with just his pops of interest. So this is a warship that's being hauled off for scrap. And this has a real defined rule of threes, which is our grid here. So you have your grid going down and your two grids going across. So you'll notice none of these will ever have, I shouldn't say ever have, but you need to learn how to create good compositions before you start breaking the rules, if that makes sense. So his horizon line is not in the center. His horizon line has dropped low. So what I look at the rules of threes is this could be my horizon line down here, or this could be my horizon line up here. And what's great about that is it really simplifies when you're looking at a big canvas or a big blank piece of paper, where to begin. And so he's broken it into the rule of threes right here by putting the mass focal point in that one of those corners. And he could have done it over here. He could have moved the horizon line and done it up here. But it helps simplify if you're beginning and when you look at your images, your artwork, and you think something's not right, it could simply be your composition. And so we're going to work with the rule of threes today. Isn't that a beautiful painting? I just love it. It's so moody. It's nostalgic. You want to look at John William H. Turner. He's one of my favorite. He does some beautiful watercolor work too. All right. Okay, let me just put that away and then we'll get some stuff out. So I think for this example, and probably for quite a few, we're going to do some mixed media. Well, I'm going to do some mixed media. I think it will be a fun way to explore not only the composition, but also playing with textures and maybe color. I'm looking for my glue stick here. So I just got my two bin scraps out. This one is not the right one. Let me grab another one. So I want some neutrals and I want some textured. So textured as in fonts and images here. That's what I mean by texture in this video. Maybe move some stuff out of the way. I probably should have done that before I started. Okay, so I'm going to just start by gluing stuff down. I don't know where this is going to lead me. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to trying to figure out what I want to do for these prompts. I think that's part of the fun. So they may be successful, they may not be, but we'll learn together. I have 2 pages here. So this is something I'm hoping you'll go along with me. I just started, by the way, on my first page. Oh, maybe my second by accident. Yeah, my second. My bad. And I'm just going to glue some of these pages down and rip some pieces up. So use whatever you've got. Now I'm gonna have the rule of threes in my head while I'm working with this. I'm going to think of that grid, those 3 grid lines, because that's the composition I want to use. I don't have subject matter yet. I'm not sure what subject I'm going to use. You can also do this on just one sheet. You don't have to do it all the way across, but I figure why not. And this is something I hope you do along with me. I really do. I think it'd be fun to work with these projects together. And what I love about teaching is you can give someone all the same material, a group of people the same material, and they all come up with something different. And it's just the way our brains are wired. It's how we visualize things, our sensories going off, touching paper, paint, anything like that. And it kind of triggers your brain to work in your way. And that's what I mean by your style. So a lot of people on my YouTube channel will comment like, oh, mine doesn't look like yours. Well, it probably never will. And I'm the same when I admire an artist and I want to do something like they're doing. And I can't achieve it either because my style is significantly different. So right now I'm just going to work in a horizontal way. I'm not going to try and overthink it just yet. Just going to build up papers horizontally. I think I'll cover the whole background. Give me lots of textures to start with. All right, come on. There we go. And what I love about these little prompts is, you know, you might be thinking, what am I going to work on today? What do I feel like doing? Well, just go on Facebook or your favorite YouTuber and see what prompts they're working on. You know, are they part of a face grip thing where they have challenges on a daily basis? Especially in January, I find there's quite a few, you know, and just watch them for a minute and see what they inspire you to make. Different papers too, different textured papers would be really fun. I highly recommend a collection of different feel of paper for mixed media, because when you go to add new medium on top, I hope I'm in camera here, new medium on top, you're going to get different results because whatever stuff you're using, whether it's ink or paint, will absorb differently and create some interesting results. So this is really a great way to play with new stuff. You know, maybe some packaging you've held on to for a while. All right, keep going here. So I'm not gonna speed this up. This is gonna be real-time video. So it might be a little quiet in between. I might not have anything to say, but I'm still here. See, just going to maybe some plain. What we got here? This is pretty thick. This could be fun down here. I got tissue paper. Look at this stuff. So I'm not thinking about anything just yet other than filling in and making this background interesting. Now, a lot of these prompts that I picked for the 12 months, you're going to notice they kind of overlap each other. Like when we talk about composition, you're also going to be talking about proportion and all the other prompts I have. I don't know if I actually showed you the prompts, sorry. So you can take there's a picture of it on my Instagram. You can take a snapshot off. So we have composition, perspective, form, proportion, value, line, texture, balance, lighting, color, contrast, and movement. And there's so many more. So many more. And that's why art is just so much fun. So much fun. Add a little interest there. Just digging through my papers here, see if I have anything else you can use that might be interesting. Here's some graph paper. I am going to stick relatively neutral papers because, as you can see, I have a lot of scraps I need to use. Something there, maybe. Just kind of overlap them for some more texture and interest. Another thing I do like to do is let them dry a little bit and then tear them off. That also can be a lot of fun. Fancy piece here. And I want to put something here. This line bothers me, so we'll put something there. Japanese writing. So pretty. I just love this. I wish I had more. This is my last piece. My brother lives in Japan. I'll probably have to ask him to send me something. Send me one of the newspapers. That'd be so cool. Not that I could read it or anything, but it's just so pretty. I mean, look at that. It's little works of art. Maybe another little piece up here. Not too repetitive. Let's do a piece of this again. All right, let's get some more materials out. Let's see what else we could play with here. So just the base, oh, I didn't even fill this section. Do I need to? No, I'm gonna leave it. Okay, lid on my glue so it doesn't dry out, and I'll tidy up with it. Okay, so I pulled out an old distressed oxide. This is Vintage Photo. So this I kind of beat up, add water to, whatever I feel like making a mess with. I grabbed some paints, so I have some burnt sienna, titanium white, and Titan pale green. I also grabbed phthalo blue. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that or not. Feel it out, see how bold I want to go. Some water and 2 really cheapy dollar store brushes. So let's see what we've got here. So you can see it's not all glued down. I'm not worried about it because I might want to peel that off later. Or maybe I want it to curl up. We'll see. I'm going to wet my brush and try and absorb some ink. So I wouldn't recommend doing this with your really good ink pads. But this is a really old one and I like to abuse it. So I'm not considering composition just yet. I'm still using this as a jumping off point kind of thing. I'm just throwing on some textures and elements, and then I will start thinking about composition. So having glued them horizontally, in my head, I'm visualizing something like landscape, and that's probably what I'll end up doing here. So working with the rules of threes, I want to put my horizon line in. So a rule is you almost never want to start a composition right through the center or right through the center. It makes it a little bit boring and predictable, and I've mentioned that before in other layouts. So I'm going to drop the horizon line low, I think. So I'm going to use some line along here that I like, and I'm going to subdue the background. So this is my white acrylic paint, and I'm just scrubbing it on. I haven't really wet the brush yet, just a little leftover residual bit left over from the wetting it for the ink. I like to paint quite dry. Oops, I'm sorry, it's shaking the camera. So the thing about ink when you're laying it down is you got to remember that ink will bleed through. It is going to mix and bleed into whatever you put on top of it. And this is oxide, by the way, sorry, not ink. I'm trying not to shake the camera. And I'm just playing, and you can see all these beautiful textures are coming up from the different papers, absorbing differently. Okay, I like that. So let's use some of this green. I'm not even cleaning my brush. I think I'll throw a little bit of green in there just for fun. So composition-wise, I'm starting to think about it now. I'm starting to think what will be pleasing. So this line is almost perfectly right in the center. So I'm now going to drop the horizon line a little bit lower. I can bring it back up again if I want. I'm going to do a kind of landscape effect here, but very, you know, abstract feeling. Very messy. Load some more paint. Drop that right in. What would be fun here too is if you have stencils. Now I don't have stencils. This is why I said I don't have stencils and then I show a stencil. This is the only stencil I have. And I like numbers, so I'm gonna throw that in there. Now you can thicken it up, but I'm gonna try and wipe it off. Where's my paper towel gone? Here we go. See if we can remove some of this paint. Don't know if this will work or not, but we're gonna try. It's almost a negative stencil, so to speak. So that's kind of fun. Left some images behind. So if you're the kind of person who gets frustrated because things aren't perfect, this is going to be a great exercise for you. So you can see the numbers didn't come out perfect. It stuck to the paper, but it's the end result we're after. These might show up later. I might cover them. Who knows? Who knows where this is going to take me? All right, I'm going to clean my brush a little. I might go to the smaller brush and I'm going to pull out some burnt sienna, which is one of my favorites to work with if this isn't too dry. Ooh, because she's old. Let's throw some in here. Oh, I need some black. I like a little contrast. So we can rip this now, see if we like what's underneath. Let me get some black. Hang on one second. Okay, so I got some, what is this one? This is carbon black. So I'm just going to grab a little off the back here. My front lid was sealed, so I just snipped off the back. Yeah, I'm pretty abusive when it comes to my paints, and as you can see, I'm messy. But that's when I know I'm having a great time, is when I make a big mess like this. And this could be really fun to glue down too. So, you know, happy little accidents. All right, so I'm gonna start putting maybe a little bit of interest, grabbing some papers and rubbing this paint over top. I don't wanna put too much on. I really do need some new paper towel here. And then maybe kind of scrub it. Start having a look, see how I feel about the composition. So I feel like I want this to go a little bit higher here. So I'm going to change my horizon line to a little bit higher on this side. Kind of smooth that out a little. And now I'm going to put my focal point in here. So what I'm going to do first though is add a little more interest to my sky. A little bit of acrylic paint going back on. And I think I want to add a little bit more texture in here. So what do we have? We have this paper, which is really neat. Some of that in. Just really be messy and have fun with it. See where it takes you. You might love it, you might hate it, but at least you tried it. And like I said, if you have really cool things to make, cool things, what's the one I'm trying to concentrate and talk at the same time. What is it? I'm trying to say stencils. Ooh, that could be really fun in here. I should get a collection of stencils. It's a bit dirty. Let's clean that off. Of course, you can use brush strokes, specific brush strokes for texture. Let's put some more letters in here. Again, I like the numbers. I think I'll go up here. And we will see if we can use a little bit of this and some ink. See what color we get. And just kind of stamp some rough numbers in. Again, I'm just kind of winging it here with you guys, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. It's stuck to the back. But I'm having a great time. So some interest in there. A little bit messy, but that's okay. More texture. Let's try and pull this piece off, see what we get. Pull this piece off, see what we get. So it leaves behind little bits of paper that I quite like the texture of. And you can reuse these in other spots too. All right. So I think we need a focal point here. What do we want to do? Do we want to make it, you know, do we want to put trees? Do we want to put rocks? Or do we want to just like add a cluster of something? So we got our rules of 3 going almost. We got our cross, and now we're going to go down. So let's do something. Do we want to do it here? Do we want to do it here? Where do we want to do it? And what do we want to do? And that's why this is so much fun. So I'm just going to keep playing till something comes up that I like, some idea that might pop in my head as I'm playing. Maybe you have a really cool stencil that you want to add as your focal point. That could be fun. A little bit more ink. A little bit more, oops. Maybe we'll introduce the blue. You know, how abstract do we want to go here? So you can see I beat up my brushes. I don't use any good brushes in this process, unless I'm putting in maybe some really good detail. And maybe a smidge more black. I like that pop of white. Soften it out. Back with some white. Just play. Maybe you want to add some more texture. using different materials. What else have I got here? I got this guy. Gonna add some interest with this. Still playing with our textures. Like I said, a lot of these prompts will overlap. This is a lot of texture in here, a lot of balance we're working on. I'd love for you guys to kind of add this to your Instagram if you're on Instagram and share it with me. Love to see what your experimentation on composition ended up looking like. What you loved about it, what you would want to learn and improve upon. Some mark making here for some visual interest. Really fun. Now I want to do some sort of focal point. I think I really love this. What's going on in here? I'm just trying to think. Maybe I'll just make some close-up stone looking images here. What do we think? So let's add some of this beautiful tiara in there, and then maybe back to some paper. So I did leave some papers out that I'd used previously. Okay, so I did want to add more. Let's open this up. Making this a bit more of a focal point by adding a bunch more texture here. Pushing it into that wet paint. Here we could maybe add some letters. Maybe a little bolder on the lettering with some black. We'll see how that works. May or may not work. Don't want to use too much. Don't want it to leak too bad. Don't want to get every single letter, just a little interest. That's fun. So we've gone completely horizontal. Maybe now we'll go vertical on our composition lines, right? So we can do something that suddenly grabs our interest a little bit more and draws our eye over to this side. This is just water. Not adding any glue or anything just yet. You know, we're looking at this. Is it a tree? Is it a building? What is it? Because we're going pretty abstract on this one today. So I do need a little bit of glue. Hopefully this is dry enough. I can throw some glue down. Just gonna throw a bunch of glue in here. Glue can be fun to mix as well because glue can repel water and paint. So it can give you some pretty cool results when you mess around with it. And I feel like I need something with a little bit more focal point, something like this. So you can see you're going over and over, really playing with layers here is what makes this so much fun. And it's a great way if you're doing something and then you think, oh, I don't like that. Well, don't worry about it because it's probably going to get covered. This piece, where's that Japanese paper? I really like that one. It's kind of eye striking. Okay, that's fun. Just kind of, you know, if you're really good at clusters, it could be a really fun exercise for you too. Put the lid on that, because I don't know how many glue sticks I've lost by not putting my lid back in and then getting distracted and walking away. Too wet. My paper towel here. I should have grabbed more paper towel. So I got this really interesting darker background, and I think to bring that focal point forward, we could do something lighter in the foreground. And it's just getting messy, right? And that's okay, because this will dry, and it's acrylic, and you can go right over top of it again. There's things you don't like about it. I think that's what I'm going to do now, is let this dry a little and see what I want to play with some more. Okay. So don't love this piece. I feel like it went too high. So I'm going to push it. Oh, it's not completely dry, so I'm going to rip it off. But you could push it back with the colors. Just love this color. So soft. Okay, let's let this dry now before I overdo it. Okay, so this is just about dry. It's still a bit tacky, but I want to move forward here. So I thought we would do some stamping. Grab my Stays On here, black ink. And I think I'm just going to simply do some interest on our focal point here. And then we'll play a little bit more. I'm going to go this way and a little bit more up higher. And this stamp I got off Amazon years ago. I'm sorry, I can't link it because I have no idea. I pulled it off the wood block and everything, so there's no recollection of who I bought it off of. But it's just like an illegible handwriting print that I love. I use it all the time in my videos. Okay, I like that. Some interests of focal point in our composition, and then I'm just going to finish it off maybe with a little bit of pen work here. So maybe we could put some sort of detail in here, just a little scribble, something that maybe that one's a bit thick. Kind of grabs our interest a little bit. You know, the tufts of grass. What are these things? Let's glue this back down. Not quite dry. We had that really pretty writing over here. Make sure we get that horizon line in. Is it a horizon line? Maybe it isn't. I don't know. But it's fun. I'm going to add a little bit of interest over here. I don't want to go too bold because I want this to be the main focal point. But I feel like we need a little something over here. So let's go with the black. Maybe bold this up over here a little bit. I don't know what that is. It keeps coming up on my desk. Maybe I'll scrub over that texture we did earlier. take whatever I have left on my paintbrush and throw it in the sky here. And then let's go with some pops of white. Use my finger. I like to use my fingers when I paint. So for those of you who are thinking, well, how is this going to apply to my junk journaling? You know, I'm not going to do an abstract landscape every time I play in my book, which I totally understand. This was just a fun experiment of playing with textures, papers, almost all the prompts, really. Might have got a little ahead of myself. But I wanted to show you how the groups of the rules of three really do make a really interesting composition. So let's play with that in the journal itself. Let's see how we can apply that composition rules in our journals. So just let me finish wiping some interesting marks in here, and we'll give it a go. Okay, I think that turned out pretty cool. I like it. I think it's got some really fantastic texture to it. Bring it in close. Though texture wasn't the prompt today, I still think, like I said, they all kind of intertwine together. So we've got our rule of three. We've got our focal point right here. And again, you can pop that focal point even more by putting something really bold in it. So let's say I want to use this stamp here of the moth or butterfly, and I just stamp it on a piece of paper. And then I cut that out with scissors. And this is just, I'm not going to use this, but this is just an example of really popping that composition and focal point out. And you can put that like right in the center, and then it's a much brighter focal point. I want something a little bit more subdued, and I like the composition in this. I see the rule of threes. The rule of three too, you can add more interest to these cross points here. So you could put something bold in here, like a little bit of a stamp, for example. Just should really wait for this to dry, but so we did a little bit of texture, but you can also add where those cross sections are in the rule of three. You can add another little bit of interest here as well. So just something simple, something that doesn't take away too much from your focal point. All the materials are cohesive, the colors are cohesive, though you can also really play with the elements, right? So we did play with texture and color. We didn't use too much color. But if you wanted color to be more of a jump-off point for this composition, then you can really pop that blue. So if you were to take this really bright blue and put it in the area here, I'm hesitant to do it because I kind of want to keep it neutral, but I really want to show you how that can work too. And just add a little pop of serious color into these sections. And see the effect it can have. It's just so much fun. Like, there's just the possibilities for this sort of thing are endless, really. I mean, it's just so much fun to use these colors. So now let's see how we can, oh, my husband just came in. Let's see, oh, hang on. Okay, so just gonna soften that out a little bit. Now that we've introduced this color, we can move it throughout. So change the whole dynamic, made a real interesting composition with these textures and the color. So I hope that kind of explains a little bit. I know it's a lot to take in with when you're throwing color at you, texture at you, paper, you know, mark making, all these things. But this is where you get to really have fun experimenting with these fundamentals and principles of art. So I wanted to show you in an artistic way how to use composition, but let's do something. I'm not going to let these touch because they'll dry together. But let's do something where it's simple layout for maybe a book page you're working on in your journal. How you can apply something very, very simple to create an interesting composition. So we could pick this one where we could put a background and then a focal point right in the middle. But I think what we'll do is this one. I like the focal mass. So what we'll do is we will just get we're going to simplify it as much as possible so don't overwhelm you. Let's find some book page that fits within the frame here. Something like this. Let's do this. So I'm going to go across the top. I'm going to glue that down. So these videos might be a little longer than my usual videos, and I'm already off to a late start, but I promise I will do one of these prompts a month. I just can't guarantee that they will be at the beginning of the month. But if you print off or take a screenshot of the list, you're going to know what's next. So perspective is next. Perspective is a lot of fun to play with, and I will teach you, basically break down the fundamentals of perspective, and then we'll have a play in our book. Okay, so here's a standard book page. Just want to make sure that's not touching. And I'm in fine. So here's a standard book page in our journals, for example. So now let's play with that style of composition. So let's find something interesting. So I'm going to grab my papers. And again, I work with a neutral palette, but you can work with whatever it is you have. Let's do something a little darker. This is fun. I'm going to just make a very simple cluster using that composition. So I'm not going right in the middle or right in the middle or right in the middle on this one. Now this, you can use that center one. You can use this one, but if you go and build it right through the middle here, so let me just show you something like this, kind of boring, and something like this in the center, kind of boring. But if we bring it off center and focus on a cluster here and still use that line right across, you know, you can still carry this color across. We're just not doing dead center. And that's where the interest, the visual balance and interest comes in. And like I said, they are all these elements are intertwined. And so I'm just going to use my paper. I'm going to tear this piece off a little bit smaller. And do a focal point, not quite in the corner. Just if I were to break this up in 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, sorry, 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3, then you're going to see where that cross section hits. Okay, just glue this piece in, and I can put my cluster in, and I have an interesting, visually interesting page by using my book pages. So now maybe I want just a very simple focal point. Maybe we'll use that stamp we did. I want to add one more texture to the background for interest. And then let's find that stamp and put it in. So now we have created an interesting composition on a simple book page. You could do it this way. Anywhere these cross sections line up, right here, 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 and here, is where you can put your focal points. And it's that simple for getting can't think, for composition. So this here is pretty much similar to this one. This is the one we're doing. But what I'm saying is you can apply this cluster to up across here, down this way, or across. So this one we've done the linear, we've done the focal mass. So this is the focal mass. This is what stretches it out visually and breaks the top portion and the bottom portion and makes the composition interesting. Now, if we were to move this line up to the center here, it's very boring, right? Just cuts it in half. Now, that being said, there are artists out there, very clever artists that know how to break the rules and still make it interesting. And that's by using all these different elements. So you can actually do something where you're using the center, but you're creating a balance and interest by using different elements. Like maybe you're using rust, maybe you're using paste, all kinds of different things. But this is an example of how you can use these in your little journals, which is what we all love to do, which is why you're here, I'm assuming. That, or maybe you just wanted to learn a little bit about the fundamentals of art. I just want to bring some of this contrast to the front. And there we have it. That simple. So those are the things I would recommend Googling artistic art. What did I Google? I think I Googled art composition and art, and all kinds of really cool images came up. But these little, and there's lots and lots of them, but these are the most common ones. And probably this one and this one would be one of the easiest ones to start, and of course these two. But it makes for a very effective tool to have in your repertoire, learning about what composition works and what doesn't, and why. Why visually you're stimulated by looking at something, or you're bored at looking at something. So if I had nice handwriting, I would put a piece of paper here and write the word composition. But I have horrible handwriting. And there it is in a little bit of artwork. All right, so I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you stuck with me. Please hit the like button, a share, and please share on Instagram. I will make sure I link my Instagram below. And I'd love to see what you make. All right, everyone, take care. Bye.